This is Lesson 1 for continuing students, the dance of the eye and the hand. Today, we'll take a closer look at any Chinese landscape painting and begin to decipher how to break it into pieces so that one can paint it on their own. We'll also begin to explore Chinese painting theory today with the three distances.
Welcome. This is the dance of the eye and the hand, and our lessons for students who are continuing, who have some basic instruction and want to go deeper into the tradition of Chinese brush painting. Today we're going to start with just a little review of how to look at a Chinese landscape, and then to start talking about some Chinese painting theory. This lesson will cover the three distances, and will set us up for the next 3 weeks of doing both a landscape demonstrating each one of those distances and adding calligraphy to that as well. So let's get started.
Look at any Chinese painting. Where do you think the painter began? Most everything you know about Western painting, particularly Western watercolor, is turned on its head in approaching Chinese painting. It begins with the line, the outline, then the shading, then the washes, and if there's color, finally some color. It begins in the foreground and works to the back. It begins at the bottom and works to the top. It begins with the darkest ink and works to the lightest. Now, in a tradition as deep and broad as Chinese painting, there are exceptions to every rule, but this is general guidance, helpful to allow you to decode the complexity of a painting and to begin to decipher that code. A fundamental difference between Western painting and Chinese painting is that Western painting works from a single point perspective. I, the viewer or the painter, am the center of the world, and everything radiates out from me. In Chinese painting, we have a moving point perspective. The artist and the viewer can be at one point in one place in the painting and move their point of perspective to another and another and another. Thus, in the Chinese system, one can be standing in multiple places at once, or even in multiple points in time. There is not necessarily a single point of perspective. Thus, the painting here of a walk down the creek at Minneapolis Falls, you can be above the falls, in front of the falls, below the falls, and all the way down to the river, all in one pointing. This is the beauty of moving perspective. So take a moment, look at this painting. Start from the bottom, go to the top, from left to right. Where would you start? One would start with the foundational trees, the clump in the lower right corner. Once identifying that clump, one would find the tree that would be the host or the master and paint that first. This clump of trees is really the keystone of the painting and needs to be strong enough to carry the entire painting. You'd start with the trunk, paint the leaves, branches, the outline of the leaves. Color would not come until the very end of the process. It is the structure that is fundamental, and in its entirety and in each of its components, the structure must be strong and integral to the painting. And even if you totally obliterate the structure in the final, it still needs to be there. Painting too quickly to the final appearance without having the internal structure will create a weak painting. The problem is that as Western painters, if we throw out Western single-point perspective, what do you use to structure your composition? This brings us to Chinese painting theory. In the following lessons, we will explore several sets of Chinese painting theories, the three distances, the 6 methods, and the 8 relationships. So in this model, We begin on the right column that tells us these are the three distances. The second from the right is distance and height. The next to the left is distance in depth. And then the third on the far left is distance at the same level. This gives us three ways of organizing perspective in a painting. In distance in height, I am down low and I'm looking up at the height of the mountain. In distance in depth, I as the viewer can see the distance of layer behind layer behind layer and gives me a sense of depth. These first two are often used together in painting, landscape painting, to show not only height, but distance. The third is distance at the same level. This one is much less frequently used. It shows all the elements sitting on the same level, often at the bottom of a valley or a river bottom, looking across. One curiosity about this particular composition is that 4 of the 9 characters repeat, the character for distance. In creating this calligraphy, we begin with 3 pairs of characters, working from right column, top to bottom, moving leftward. Once those are complete, the title can be added to the right, and then your date and name, perhaps to the left, depending on how you've laid this out. One must look very carefully at each of these 4 characters for distance. Though structurally identical, each one has variations to distinguish it from the others. Take a moment now and look at each one. This requires using the skill of your eye. Look carefully. How do the dots differ from each other in each of the 4? How do the wave strokes differ? What strokes are thick? Which ones are thin? Take your time. Working on the 3 distances, I'm going to use my detail brush, which is just a little bit smaller than my landscape brush or general purpose brush. If it's easier to work a little larger at first, please do so, but I'm going to work with the detail brush to get a little finer point on things, load it. And this is a little loose ink, so I'm going to just grind a little bit more. If I'm working with a smaller brush, I often need to have ink more refined, grind a little bit longer, or if you opt to, you could certainly use bottle ink for this. My general rationale for using ground ink is that it helps slow you down. You can't rush as much with ground ink, and it helps just relax you, slow down, get in this moment, in this place, and just get out of all of the chatter that might be going on in your head, whether or not you're on Facebook. So just grind it a little bit more, finish that, and let's see what we can get on this brush. So this, we're going to do this as a complete piece of calligraphy, which means it will have content, it will have title, and it will have hopefully your a date and your name on it as well. So we're going to work with this in both as one piece. We will also break it up over the next 3 weeks into single pieces as part of landscapes demonstrating each one of these concepts. So on the model, we have the title, which we'll ignore for now, and then column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 1 is what we'll start with. So I want to look at my page and imagine, okay, I have 1, 2, 3 columns. I'll have a title, and then maybe I'll put my date and name over here and be able to lay this out as a complete composition.
So starting with column 1, I want to do long horizontal and then a dot. Then my pair of verticals and a pair of horizontals. Then left side a vertical and then horizontal connects to vertical, and then within that I will create a small box. So there is my first distance. Then I have the character for distance, which starts with the horizontal, pair of horizontals, a vertical, and on this I want to pay attention to the variations that occur in each one of these versions of the character for distance, paying attention to spacing, to length, to weight. So I have my box, I have a nice down to left, and then strong vertical pair of dots. Then I have my running structure. On the left side, I go 1 dot, 2 dots, 3 dots, and then one more down to left, and then my wave stroke, which comes down and lifts. And that is my first pair of distances, distance in height. Now, second column, I start with what is the 3 dots of a water radical. This is depth, height and depth, vertical, horizontal connects to vertical, pair of vertical dots, then horizontal, a little stronger vertical coming down, and then a simple down to left, down to right. Then I repeat my distance character, this time again still starting on the right side with a long horizontal, thick horizontal, sort of stout vertical, and a box that is more square than rectangular. Very short dot, vertical, pair of dots here, these are a little bit longer. Then for my running structure, I start with 1, 2, 3 dots, one more dot that then is connected to this wave, and this one is a little smoother, a little more refined than the one to the right of it. Reset my ink, reset my point, and I have my third pair. This is distance at the same level. This character for same level, same is very simple, which means it needs to be strong in order to hold its weight next to these more complicated characters. So strong horizontal, strong vertical, 1 dot, 2 dots, and another horizontal. And then my third version of distance or perspective, this is a little more thin, refined, broader box on this one, very thin and somewhat long down to left, again similar with the vertical. Then my dots here, this one has just a little sense of a curve, a little stoutness, and a little more length, and then one more down to left, and then a wave that starts press and lift. So my 3 distances. Now I could add the title to it over here with starting with the word or character for 3. I go 1, 2 horizontals, and then a nice wave stroke. Then my character for distance, 1, 2, vertical, small box here, heavy on the top, then my down to left, my vertical, my 2 dots. This one is thick, next one is thin. Then my 3 dots for the running structure, my dot that connects to that wave stroke. Press, lift, and then third character is for method, the 3 distance method or theory, starting with these dots that are water radical, 1 horizontal, 2 horizontal, a vertical, and then down to left connects to horizontal, down to right, and I have my piece titled. And then to finish it, I can put a date and name over here on the left side. So today's date starts with the year 2020, year, and it is June, which is our 6th month, and then my name, and a complete piece, something I could frame and put up in my studio to keep right before me the Chinese painting theory about the 3 distances. That's our lesson for today. Next time we will go a little deeper into exploring what each one of these means and creating a landscape to go with each of the different distances. So have at it, and if you wish, you can certainly email me a copy of what you've done, and I will give you a critique via email. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Before you go, one last note. The handouts for the Dance of the Eye and the Hand for beginning students and continuing students, all lessons, are posted as downloadable PDFs at www.laughingwatersstudio.com. Have a good day. You have been watching Distance Learning from Laughing Waters Studio.